Hello. Sorry for the delay. Again, a little trouble getting onto Facebook Live, but here we are on day 4 of the Fall Inflammation Challenge. A very exciting topic, sleep and inflammation. Right? So hopefully you have started your stack, as we call it, of addressing inflammation, first with nutrition and then with moving your muscles, right? Thank you everyone who posted their favorite exercise or intentions that way. Okay. But let's get to sleep, okay? I mean, let's talk about sleep, because we do love to do it, right? But a surprisingly large number of people, something like 60% of people in America don't sleep well. But the thing is, when we sleep, that's when we heal. So if you're short on sleep, you're not getting all of the healing benefits that your body can provide. And one of the greatest drivers of that difficulty does involve inflammation. And it's a catch-22, a terrible circuit. If your inflammation is high, you're not sleeping well. If you don't sleep well, it raises your inflammation. So you're really caught in that circuit. So how can we address it today? Well, we can get started by just saying it's good to track your sleep. Kind of keep track of how often you're sleeping and the quality. There are programs that can do that. Really neat systems sometimes that even track the type of sleep you're getting, not just how long. There are even some fancy ones that mimic sleeping outdoors. Because if you slept outdoors, not only would your body naturally fluctuate in temperature during the night, but the environment would be important. But anyway, getting started with addressing your sleep means getting started first thing in the morning, believe it or not. When you wake up in the morning, if you get some direct, fresh sunlight right on your face, it starts a whole cascade of hormones and enzymes and transmitters, neurotransmitters, that start telling your body in X number of hours you're going to get sleepy and have a good night's sleep. So you can start doing that now, tomorrow morning and the mornings to come, and start signaling your body that you're going to try to match natural circadian rhythms. Because the importance of a circadian rhythm is that the body is programmed to kick in to certain physiological states at a certain time. And when we don't follow a rhythm, we feel out of sorts. And once again, we can get inflamed. All right? So that's the first thing, starting the sleep preparation cycle first thing in the morning. We talked an awful lot about anti-inflammatory foods. And that's important because the gut and sleep are intimately connected. I don't have to tell you, if you've got a bad meal that just doesn't agree with you, you're not going to sleep well that night. We've all had that. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later today. So what's the amount of sleep you should get? Well, the threshold for good sleep, the absolute minimum, is actually 7 hours. 8 is better. 9 is good. But in America, the average is 6 hours and 20 minutes or so. It's under that threshold. So we're kind of chronically sleep deprived as a nation. So how are we going to create what's called a sleep stack? You're getting that term from functional medicine, a stack, building something that's going to help you. Well, start in the time before bed. And I'm sure you've probably heard of this, stop the blue light, don't stare at your computer. But it's a little more complicated. So starting the actual preparation right before sleep starts after your last meal. Okay? Is it loaded with stimulants? Coffee, soda, alcohol? Was it heavy and rich and stimulating? Were you trying some new foods that you didn't realize don't agree with you? So again, poor inflammation, poor sleep leads to more inflammation, leads to poor sleep. All right. So the second thing you do before bed is watch what you're watching. Not the best time to watch an action flick or a suspenseful mystery. Better you should keep it light, romantic, a comedy if you're going to watch television. Reading emails and social media, boy, that can really stir you up, right? Anything that gets your adrenaline going, and your cortisol is going to raise that inflammation, and it's going to interfere with sleep, right? So you can also actually do some things like do a little light stretching in that hour before sleep. You can listen to music. I mean, some traditions, such as Ayurvedic, talk about 10 p.m. as the time to go to sleep, or at least start that 1 hour before calming preparation. A nice tea, chamomile, lemon balm. Listen to music that's calming. Your choice, but something that keeps your nerves steady and quiet rather than stimulated. Pay attention to what happens earlier in the day. Did you exercise on what we talked about yesterday? Just doing something that's regular, even gentle. But if your chronic high inflammation is present already, it's going to take some time. And that's where it's important, once again, to individualize. You're going to have your own pattern, your own signs that you're not sleeping well. And you're going to have your own individual way to heal based on your genetics, your particular enzymes, the way your body is currently handling its food and its stress level and the air you breathe and toxins. On the other hand, though it takes time, why wait, right? Start right now with some of these hints. Just create that little sleep stack before bed. And when you wake up in the morning, get sunlight on your face. Okay? So I said I'd talk a little bit more about sleep and the gut. But before I do, let me talk about one more thing, about preparing your room. And this is kind of, new awareness, I guess, about light sources. Not just the blue light, staring, at your cell phone screen as you fall asleep. But there may be things in your room beeping and flashing and that you don't even think twice about. You're charging your toothbrush over in the corner. If you have an air purifier, is the light blinking at you? And you can just, cover these over. You don't have to stop your life. Just, even if your eyes are closed, you may be perceiving a lot of light coming in that doesn't belong there. But again, what works for you, individual. If you need to get up every night, let's say to go to the bathroom, you don't want to trip. So, again, individual is best, right? And the other thing, though, is temperature. It turns out there's a good temperature in the 60s that promotes prolonged, uninterrupted, good sleep. So even if you've got the AC on, let's say you live in the tropics, or it's the height of summer, even here where I live, it can get up to 80, 90, even at night on really bad nights. So your AC might be getting the house down to 72, 74. You might be able to fall asleep that way, but it's not really great for prolonging your sleep the way you should get a nice, solid, uninterrupted sleep, so you go through all the natural sleep cycles. And by the way, there's so much to talk about with sleep that we will talk about more in detail in our trauma healing group. Okay? But again, you can get systems that keep your bed cooler, and they're very helpful, really. And that's maybe the way to go if everything else you tried just doesn't work. You might need to get some kind of system that keeps the bed cool for you. Again, maybe you have a naturally high body temperature. Maybe you're lucky enough to be the rarer one that just is in a deep sleep no matter what. But most people are lighter, and that means a restless sleep. And once again, if it's interrupted, inflamed, you're not going to be able to tackle that chronic inflammation so well. But sleep is that healing time. And it's funny, the more you know, the more interesting it gets, I think. For example, there are many liver processes. The liver is our big organ for metabolizing, for detoxing. It works overtime, really, these days. And it starts to activate in the late evening, around 10 p.m. Around 3 a.m., something really important happens. It really sort of kicks into high gear. A lot of people wake up because of that. But there's this really important connection between the gut, and the liver is part of that, right? And your stomach and what's in there, and the brain, actually. So I don't have to tell people, when you're worried about something, you're in a crisis, it's really hard to fall asleep because it's hard to turn off your thoughts, all right? So there's one really easy and direct connection, brain to sleep. But here's a more complicated example about brain and gut and sleep, okay? Not just the ability to fall asleep, but your quality of sleep. So let's say someone has a really heavy, rich meal, okay? And then they go to sleep, it's the middle of the night, at 3 a.m. time, the liver is struggling now to make it through what is called food stagnation, okay? And you wake up and you feel very anxious. You don't know why, right? The connection's not immediately apparent, but you feel anxious. And then you start with anxious thoughts and you start worrying, and there you go. There's that cycle, the brain and the gut and sleep. All right. So these systems are complicated, but they can be healed, again, with an individual approach. Okay. So for a little assignment, a little challenge, part of this challenge, maybe you can put in your comments, what do you use to relax in those hours before sleep, especially that 1 hour before sleep? How do you unwind at night? All right. So tomorrow is really important. It'll be the wrap-up of our inflammation challenge, and a very exciting topic for me, at least, more the emotional aspects of inflammation. Okay, so I'll see you then. All right, bye-bye.